probably best to start at the beginning. Why advertising? Why did you choose that? If you did English, instead of doing English, why made you go to advertising?
I actually wanted to be a journalist.
Okay.
But sort of personal circumstances meant that I had to sort of get a job in London, and I'd always been interested in advertising. So I was sort of lucky enough to get in at a time when, you know, it was still a fairly formal, you know, recruitment process. And it was seen as sort of more of a profession than I think it is now. I don't think it's a good thing, by the way, but that's kind of how it's seen.
Yeah. So it was always kind of a draw for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really nice life. I mean, it was then and it is now. And it's interesting, you know, it's sort of where, you know, art and business meet. It's a real cliche, but so it's not as serious as going to something like banking or accountancy or law. But it's still about being in business, being for business.
So how did you actually start off? Because you were at Grey.
I started as a graduate trainee at Grey, and you know, it's very conventional training. You spent, you know, 2 weeks in each department. Didn't really do much in any of them, and then you started working on accounts, and that's really how you learned it. And my first accounts were Timex watches and Procter & Gamble. Good training.
Is there a campaign that you're particularly proud of? If you think back of all the ads you've been in, is there one that really stands out?
There's 3 that stand out.
Three, yeah?
3. Levi's 501s back in the 80s. Nick Cayman in the laundrette and all that stuff. I was the account. I ran the account at BBH. And we made, you know, 12 or 15 commercials over that 6 or 7 year period. And they all got lots of awards. And they were fantastically successful. So I'm really proud of that. I'm very proud of Tesco. There was a campaign called the Dotty campaign with Prunella Scales playing a sort of shopper from hell. And Jane Horrocks is her sort of put upon daughter, and the line "Every little helps." And it was a time when Tesco really took off, and the advertising played a big part in that. And I'm also pretty proud of the Stella Artois advertising, again in the 90s and early noughties, which is sort of Jean de Florette pastiche.
The black and white ones.
Some of them were a couple of them were black and white towards the end, but they were. Again, the brand was unbelievably successful for reasons no one quite understood, but no one bothered to ask. So 15% year-on-year, you know, sales uplift. So there are, and lots of others, but those are the big 3.
What happens if you get, I suppose, a brand or a company that you don't relate to in a certain way, or you dispute, like Tesco? Some people would see Tesco as maybe an evil company, but then people love it. So what do you do when you get?
Well, obviously it's nice to work on things that you like, because, you know, so for me, jeans and motorcycles and, you know, things like that. But actually, equally, you have to apply your skills to things that, you know, are more mundane. So, you know, you're selling loo paper or, you know, food products or financial services or whatever it has to be. And you just do it as well as you possibly can, and then the satisfaction that comes from that, from doing it as well as you can, as opposed to being emotionally involved with the product category or the brand.
So you can just siphon it off and
the skills are the same.
So what advice would you give to someone who's just starting up in the industry? How can they get in? I realise you just spoke about this in the lecture, but
it's fine. Well, good luck is what I would say, and then practically, because I think it is tough right now. And you know, I mean, whenever, you know, there's a financial contraction, people take this very short-sighted decision, quite often not to hire, because it saves money. And then there's problems down the line which they know are going to happen, but what can you do? So there are a few jobs around, and the thing to do is take advantage of every contact, every placement, be funny, witty, clever and outrageous. Some of those stunt kind of things, stunt applications, they don't always go down well. But you know, you have to stand out, and that's about your CV and your experience and the way in which you present yourself and the way in which you present your CV and your experience. And the main thing is getting in front of people. And I'm afraid, at the moment, I think that's a numbers game. I think you've got to, you know, for every, you know, 20 applications, you know, getting an interview, I think, you know, that's good. And then once you're in, you can prove yourself and then take a look around. I think getting in is the main thing. I think being choosy about how you get in and where you get into right now probably isn't particularly realistic, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah.
It's like a shame to say, I'm out of the agency business now. It's not good practice, but there it is.
Some people would say that it's more who you know as opposed to what you know. Would you agree with that, or is that just a horrible?
Do you know what? I think there is a bit of nepotism, and actually there's a very large number of advertising dynasties in people whose fathers are in the business and so on. And my daughter will turn out to be. I don't know, but that hasn't happened yet. Actually, the business in some ways is more professional than it used to be. You can't get away with hiring your cousin or your daughter's boyfriend or whoever else. So in general, I don't think it happens much. I think undoubtedly it happens a bit.
So it's just taking every opportunity.
I'm afraid it is.
We spoke about this again in the lecture, but what's your opinion on the big agency versus the small agency dynamic? Well, I mean, if someone's looking at an agency, would you recommend that they go to?
That's a very interesting question. I mean, big agencies probably have a broader range of clients, broader range of disciplines and capabilities, and better training. And smaller agencies are more dynamic and more fun. So, I mean, if I was given the choice, to go to a startup or Ogilvy, it would be a tough choice because Ogilvy and JWT and Lowe and trained in a big agency, you become a very valuable commodity after a couple of years. And when I was in a startup called BDH, and we hired 3 account managers with 2 years experience on the trot from Ogilvy. Yeah. And the CEO of Ogilvy wrote to us, Nigel Bogle, and asked them if there was anything you would specifically like them to include in their training scheme. Which was a nice way to say, fuck off.
So if you go back to like an average day for you when you were actually in the agency business.
First off,
what was an average day?
Oh, what do you do?
Yeah,
it's a good question. Well, you, as an account handler, whether you're an account executive or an account director or a chief executive, you're sort of team leader. So a sort of mindless enthusiasm. I don't mean mindless, but a sort of infectious enthusiasm is a good quality. Yeah. Because you have to sort of galvanise this disparate group of people and talents, get them roughly pointing in the same direction in order to deliver an outcome for the client. And the talents are creative people and production people and technologists and planners and management and clients. And therefore having sort of really good people skills and the ability to make people do what you want them to do, as opposed to just telling them, which doesn't work. That's a good thing. So your day is spent in meetings, by and large meetings. Maybe writing articles, but meetings, creative meetings and briefings, production meetings, budgeting meetings, billing meetings. You're the team leader and the centre of the team, and you have to have your finger on, on all the buttons. It's a great job, actually. Being an account director is a fantastic job.
So it's something you would recommend?
I really would. It's like having your own little company, got your own P&L, expected to make some money. It's for me, that's apart from being a creative person, that's the best position in the agency.
Okay. So if you could, we asked on Twitter as well, if people had any questions for you.
Oh, just
very brief kind of hashtag thing. So one person's asked, what was been the what's been the highlight of your career so far? If you could distill it into one or a couple of key points.
Do you know what? My highlight of my career was actually doing consultancy for President Mbeki of South Africa. Actually, it's a long story which I'll tell very quickly. Niall Fitzgerald, who was chairman of Unilever, had a background in South Africa. He was a friend of Mbeki, and he asked the head of Interpublic, and I work for Interpublic and WPP, Microsoft, to choose a senior executive from each group to go to South Africa and advise on a brand South African project. I went with a guy called Peter Bell, and we spent 2 days with Becky and other Southampton government ministers. It's the only time I've ever had a head of state take notes when I was secretary. One of the guys said the most brilliant thing to me. We were brief, but we didn't particularly prepare. We said to President Becky's chief of staff, you know, we're here to help. We've been well briefed on the Brown Southampton project. We don't have a PowerPoint presentation or anything like that. And he put his hand on my arm, I think, Peters, and said, we've just conducted a bloodless revolution in a country of 44 million people without PowerPoint. It'll be okay. That's what he said. So in a way that was a highlight, because it was a sort of culmination of a lot of other things together in giving some political advice to a politician who not everyone admires, but who was trying to do the right thing in many ways.
Someone else asked a question on Twitter as well.
Since digital coming in there now.
What was the
future?
Yeah, well, some people tweeting Ashton Kutcher and people like that. Maybe. What's the biggest risk you've ever taken with an account, if you don't mind sharing it?
Okay. We handled the Stella Artois advertising at Lower Spec. We took enormous pride in the quality of the product work. And there was a script which became something called Last Orders that the client didn't want to buy because he didn't like the ending. And I said to the client in the meeting, if you want a different script, we're going to have to go to a different agency. There was a sort of squeaky bum moment, as Alex Ferguson would call it, and he went, okay. And the terrible thing was he was right, the ending wasn't right, and the director supplied a much better ending than we had in the script. But that was a nervous moment. But just to me.
So, I suppose to wrap up, if you could offer one golden piece of advice, you're still absolutely all this knowledge, and the one thing, one precise thing to share.
Work with good people.
Yeah.
That's it. Because you don't have to be better than everyone else. In fact, it's actually better if everyone else is better than you, because the outcome is going to be good and you're going to be part of something successful. Working with good people is actually the key to it. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that. So it's a fantastic gift. It really is.
Thanks very much for...
it's a pleasure. It's okay. You're in the noisiest place in the university.
I know, exactly.
I hope it works.